My name is Jed Christiansen. I live in Grove City, PA, and I am 29 years old. I really got into running before I even can remember. I was probably around 2 or 3 years old. I can't really remember a time when I did not run because it has literally been since before I can remember. So when I was 8 years old in 1995, the way things worked for our family is my dad would come up with, he'd get a bunch of different race entry forms, and we would sit around in a room and my dad would ask, okay, what races do you guys want to run? One day I remember my dad coming to us and saying, okay, I have a race, but it's not going to be for all of you. And he said, I was wondering if any of you wanted to do a marathon. And I immediately thought he was crazy, and I was hoping no one would say yes. I had done a half marathon before. I think my first half marathon was at 7 years old at the Clarion River Run. But that was all that I'd done, and maybe it was only one time. I remember it was just going to be my sister, myself, and my dad. And my dad had done these 2 marathons before, but never finished. So his goal was to finally finish a marathon. I remember going to the Northern Central Trail Marathon in Towson, Maryland. It's relatively small, but it was on a Saturday, and it was supposed to be really flat, so my dad thought it'd be a good one, and we were trying to avoid running on Sunday as well. One of the things our dad always taught us was to never stop running, never to walk, keep running no matter how slow, and so that was my main goal, and I kept thinking that they forgot to put out mile markers. They never did. Every single mile marker was out there. But I eventually made it back, and I had to wait for forever for my sister to come in. Mark Courtney actually says that he still remembers me just sitting there huddled in one of those marathon blanket things with powdered donut in my hand, maybe a little on my mouth and stuff. So I still have some memories of that race. I'm very happy that I did it and accomplished it. Sometimes things can seem pretty crazy, but if you train for things and you give it your best shot, you really don't know what you can handle. The human body and mind is capable of a lot more things than what we always give it credit for. So, I believe that each person in this world is created with a gift, with talents, and it is up to them to develop it to their best ability and use it for God's glory.
Well, you can trace lines in your face, but it's the way that your spirit makes you whole. Though you hate.
So going into my senior year of high school, my very last track season, so my last semester, one of the things I had never done still was win an individual state title. At the district meet, like I pretty much always did, I ran the 4x8, the 3200, the 1600 to score as many points as possible for the team. And our team ended up winning the district title. And then, like was planned, I scratched at the district meet for the 1600 for state. And then I went to talk to my coach, Brian Herrick, and he was like, did you scratch? And I'm like, yeah, which was our plan that we'd come up with beforehand. And he was like, well, I was thinking you recovered so well today, maybe you would go and do the mile as well at state. And I was, at that point, my 2 mile was still just hovering around 9:20, and it really wasn't quite to the level where I probably needed to win the state meet. And I was like, you know what, let's see how many points we can score for the team at state. I was still hoping to, maybe win a state title in the 3200. And I ended up third. I never was really that close, as Jeff Weiss was attempting to go for the state record. He ran something under 9:10. And going into the mile, I felt awful. I remember being underneath the bleachers at the Shippensburg University. My sister Jessie came up to me and was asking if I was okay, and I just felt sick to my stomach. I could hardly eat anything or drink anything, and I just wasn't sure what I'd be up to do. But I was like, I'm here. This is my last race, and I want to try again to score some points. My goal is just to medal, get somewhere in the top 8, score some points for the team.
Graduated, and here are the top 8 seeds. You've got Jed Christiansen again, can't ignore him from Greenville.
So we go into it, and I just kind of hang out at the back because I was exhausted. I barely could get my legs moving. But it worked out as a strategy race. No one really wanted to take the lead. And finally, with about 500 meters to go, I knew I need to get into position. I thought I didn't have a good kick. I need to get in position, top 3, to be able to be there in the top 8 at the finish line.
As Walker, who made his push, drops all the way back to 7th, and here comes Christiansen, hard on the outside, coming down on 1 lap to go.
Wow, that's quite a surge there for him. See if he can hold on. They go through 3:20. That'll bring him in about 4:22, 23, I think, depending on how hard they can go. And Christiansen said, I'm going after this one. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it didn't take anything out of him, the 32.
Even though I'm in the lead, I'm just trying to medal at that point. I get around to 100 meters, and I'm still in the lead. No one's there. And at that point was the first point that I actually tried to win the mile.
Can he hold on the late push by Walker, who's well behind him? Jed Christiansen of Greenville into the final 50 yards, and he's got it. Jed Christiansen, what an explosion for him as we came to the final lap. And Christiansen is the state champion of the AA mile, a 4:21 flat. Rooker in 2nd, and Walker took 3rd.
Hats off to Jed Christiansen. What a gutsy performance. After running the 3200, came out here with about 450 meters to go and just took off. A surge to take the lead. He knew where he was going.
Hold your hands up high, my love, I see you behind the line. Hold your hands up high, my love, I see you behind the line.
That away, Finney. Nice job, guys. Beautiful. We're there. We're there. That away, Jed. Right up with your teammates.
Really wanted to experience being part of a team and fighting with a team out on the course. So I chose a school that I really felt would be somewhere where I'd have brothers on the line, where it wasn't about who was coming in first, but it was instead how can we do this together. One of my best memories in my entire running career was my sophomore year of college, when we won the national cross-country title. I think, again, when you start to run for something greater than yourself, you can have you can have some of the best experiences of your life. And I would also say that might have been my best year running in college. And it goes back to when you are running for something greater than yourself, in the end, oftentimes you accomplish more yourself. Even when you're not focusing on yourself, even when you slow up, maybe you run some workouts a little slower than you might have otherwise done, or run some races a little slower than you might have done. By helping out your teammates and making them better, in the end, it makes you better as well. And so I think sometimes we can become pretty selfish about what we want, about what we think is best for ourselves. But in the end, running for something, running for others and helping them out, in the end, we reap the benefits of that ourselves. God has given me the ability to run, and I'm just taking it as far as it goes. I don't know exactly how long it was after I graduated, but someone stuck the idea, hey, you're going to try and make it to the Olympic trials. And I kind of thought they were a little bit crazy. I was like, okay, I was a good runner in college. I wasn't that level. But I was like, okay, if I'm going to be training and running, I might as well give this a shot. I did the Chicago Marathon in 2011, and they had a huge pace group, like 50 guys all trying to do this, plus a couple of the lead women. And so I had a perfect situation. I just kind of hung on and tried to get on that pace and do it. And I ended up qualifying, ran 2:18:31. And I was really, really surprised. I just didn't think that was really in the realm of what I'd be able to handle at that point, especially so shortly after starting to train for it. And so I qualified for the 2012 Olympic trials there. After that, I was like, okay, in 4 years, I need to get to a new level. I want to not just qualify for the trials, but I also want to be, top half, top quarter of the field. I wasn't really thinking that I'd quite be able to hit the top three, but you never know after you train for a few years. So started working on that, but I think over those 4 years I had a lot more injuries. I had one of my first serious ones. I didn't know it at the time, but I had a pretty serious IT band syndrome. I had to drop out of the Pittsburgh Marathon, I think in 2012. Came out on crutches, and I was out for at least 6 weeks, and I had to rehab. So that was my first major injury. I actually qualified for the 2016 trials at Chicago in 2014. At that race, I was attempting to run the 2:15 time because that'd be the A standard to get everything paid for. Late in the race, I realized I'm not going to make the time. And fast forward a year and a half later, the IAAF, I believe, lowered the national standard, international standard to make it to the Olympics. So then the USATF lowered their standard from 2:18 to 2:19. And I all of a sudden qualified. At that point, when they lowered it in December, I wasn't sure that I would have another chance. I was going to try in January, but I was literally not running at that point. It was probably the most time I'd ever taken off running in my life since I was 3 years old or whatever. I just had so many different injuries, and if I was any other person at that Chicago race in 2014, I should have given up once I knew I was not running 2:18. And I still kicked it in at the end, and if I did not do that, I remember even throwing up that last 100 meters. It was very, very difficult, and if I had not given everything I had, I only qualified by 5 seconds. And that would have been something I was sick to my stomach to, a year and a half later, if they would have slowed down the standard and I would have missed it by a couple seconds. But I think that's a lesson that you never know what's going to happen in a race. To give it the best shot that you have. You don't know if someone's going to fall down. I've heard of races at national cross-country meets where deer get spooked and run into the field of runners. You never know when a deer is going to take out that person in front of you. So just always give it the best shot that you have. And, after you do that, if you don't make it, you can still be happy that you gave it your best shot. And if you do, you'll be glad that you did. When you can't remember a time that you didn't do something, it becomes as part of you as eating or sleeping. And no one's going off and saying, I think I'm done eating and sleeping now. I've had enough of that in my life. God willing, I'll keep running till I'm 80 or whatever. We'll see where this goes. As I age, it seems like I continue to get more and more injuries. My real goal is just to keep training and to train at a new and higher level. The desire is something that is really, really tough to find and always have that desire in yourself, but you have to have those goals to train and always, seek to be the best that you can be. I can't run as fast as this other person. There's, I'm never going to be able to run a 2:10 marathon or run with this person who's breaking, 13:45 in a 5K. The greatest thing we have to overcome is ourselves and our mindset and our own self-belief. Every single person out there can really accomplish more than what they ever thought was possible. You really have to be very disciplined and dedicated to achieve the most that you can out of yourself. But there are so many runners that no one thought that they could accomplish something, and in the end, they believed in themselves and they just kept working at it. And those are often the ones who end up excelling. You just see it so many times, not even just in running, but in every area of life. You see basketball players, football players that come from inner cities, and they have no business getting out of the issues that they had, but they just kept fighting for it. And there are people who achieve a lot in business or in the professional life that came from nothing. It's not who you are that holds you back, but it's who you think you're not.